Hey guys, what's going on? It's Gunnar here. Welcome back to the channel. Now today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be e-scouting a property that I have zero experience with. This is a property, actually state land, in the middle of Missouri. I just went on and I found a property that I thought looked maybe a little bit interesting, that I would walk through exactly how I would e-scout this if I were to go travel to Missouri, hunt this property without any info, intel, anything like that, experience on this property, nothing. So I kind of got this idea from, I put up a poll on Instagram on some content that you guys might want to be interested in seeing and how I would tackle, and this is exactly that. So I'm going to walk you through how exactly I went on OnX and I went into my pro membership and I went and I drew out the exact scenario that I'm anticipating would happen on this property if I were to go ahead and hunt it. So we're going to get started here. This is just a screen recording that I'm just going to kind of walk you guys through play by play here, exactly what I'm thinking might play out. So basically what we've got going on here is this is my public, my state land over in here. This is a private border right along here. So I wanted to first and foremost verify where I thought the ag was going to be, or the priority food source. So what I could see here, the best that I could tell, this looked like a row crop area. Now, I don't know what crop that might be. I don't know if it's corn. I don't know if it's beans. But it looks like a cash crop of some sort. I could see kind of the no-till drill marks, the way it looks, or the lines in that field. So it looks like it's being either harvested for row crops, planted in row crops, or potentially a hay field of some sort where they're cutting and they're leaving lines there. So that's basically what I'm going off of. This here in the state land, this looks to me like maybe an old overgrown CRP that they're just mow managing, or they're mow managing some cedars in there. I know that's big down there, trying to get rid of cedars. I'm not sure why. I really like them for deer hunting. They're excellent stand location spots as well. But that's just their idea down there. But yeah, so I'm marking out my ag areas here. So as you can see, I'm just using the shape tool. I'm creating a shape in here so I have a better idea of the sheer size of it. I didn't necessarily care a whole lot about the sheer size of it. Just mainly having something physical to look at so I can identify, okay, this is an ag area. So I'm just outlining that, and I'm creating those in a green color, and then I'm just labeling those ag. So as we continue here, now I'm looking for bedding. So as you can see, this is a big block of timber right here. I'm looking at identifying where potential bedding areas are going to be. Now, this is a big hunk of timber, and it's mashed between, this looks like ag to me as well, but that's all private control, so I'm not necessarily looking at that. But this is something to mention here, is there's going to be a lot of deer crammed in between here, and they have the option of going either this ag field or this ag field. And so you also have to take into consideration where those does and where those bucks are going to be stacked up according to that. So more than likely, my idea of where these bucks are going to be are probably going to be farther from these ag fields. They're going to be farther from that food source, and these does are going to be staged in and around here nice and tight. This is probably more of a doe bedding that you saw, that little sliver. So this is where I'm kind of focusing, and at the end of the day, this is your public land. This is what you have control over and you can access here, right? So I'm looking for this big block of timber that's farther away from the destination food in this case, which is these ag fields or that one over there. So they're going to be traveling distances to get to those high quality food sources. And at the end of the day, I'm looking to try to create a line of movement here. As you can see, what is the line of movement? Now, we do have some neighboring ag fields over here by the looks of it, but I'm focusing on a small area, and the best area that I'm just quickly looking at here. This is also going to be a bedding area in here. All of this big timber, I have no idea what the stage of it is. I don't know the maturity stage. whether it's high quality browse timber or whether it's just big canopy timber. But most of the time, from my experience, these little fingers and pinches are going to have really good browse habitat in them. They're really thick. A lot of times they're ditches and drainages and good topography dips. So those deer spend a lot of times in those fingers. So that's what I'm looking at here. As for this area, basically, as you'll see it on this screen recording as it's playing out here, basically my line of movement, the way I see it, is going to be from this bedding area, because this looks more like a buck bedding area than anything to me because of the distance from the ag fields and just the sheer contour and topography of it all. I think there's going to be a good amount of bucks in there, mature bucks, at the end of the day. So this is kind of what I'm basing everything off of. I'm not necessarily too concerned about seeing does and fawns. I want to see mature deer. So this is what I'm looking at. This is the bedding area I'm focusing on. This is what I'm thinking is going to be a little bit of a staging area. So I'm thinking a lot of this bedding over in here and here is going to be congregating in this little finger, this little sliver right before the ag right in here. Now, it could be happening here as well, but my main concern here is there's no cover really. This looks like probably just overgrown CRP, and if they're mow managing it to try to control invasives in there, that could be pretty low to the ground cut. I'm not sure the status of that. That's something that I would have to make a game time decision when I got there. But basically what I'm looking at is this cover right in here. I'm looking at a lot of deer funneling out of this big bedding and using these fingers and using these little draws because they're using it as a pinch point, right? They're trying to stay secluded and in cover as long as possible. And when you have these long draws that lead to another block of timber, that's going to be a funnel area, and those deer are going to stay tight to that because it's edge habitat. You know, they're not going to want to, especially on state land here, they're not going to want to cross this open field just freely. So they're going to be staying in these fingers, and the way I see it is these bucks are going to be coming out of this big bedding, and they're using these fingers to get into what this looks to me like probably a staging area just before big food movement. Now, as you can see, all of this big ag over here, this is going to be hit probably after dark. But if you were to get in here, this is what I would focus on. I think I had some trouble with the app here, but this is what I would focus on is these little fingers. These are pinch points. And at the same time, this staging area as well. So as this plays out, I was dealing with some app issues here. It was being goofy with me, so maybe I can skip through this. So we'll let it play from here. But basically what I drew here in these pink lines is your line of movement. Now that's the deer line of movement. Now that's the straightest as the crow flies line of movement. A deer's not going to probably travel on that. That's just what I'm trying to see is, okay, where are these deer trying to get from bedding to food? And that's my point of attack. I'm trying to find out where these deer are traveling, how they're traveling, and this is the way I see it playing out here. I'm seeing these deer coming out of here, traveling across that boundary line of the private to public, and this is what I would have access to here is this public on the left, here's my boundary line, here's the private, and probably the destination ag going here, the unpressured. Now I don't completely know the status of the pressure on this private land. I don't know the status of the pressure on the public land. So that's all variables that I don't know yet. But I'm looking at this from a completely brand new standpoint, and I'm just trying to draw out what I think might be happening. So as you can see, I drew one before that app got finicky on me. I drew one potential line of movement that a buck would take, which is using this finger and coming down into the staging area, sitting in here before he goes out to the food source. Now, at the same time, we've got a water hole by the looks of it right here. We've also got some water here. Also, don't know the status of that, if it's still filled with water or if it is dry at this point. You know, it's all relative to the conditions during that specific year. So that's another thing that I would want to be trying to figure out once I got boots on the ground here. But at the same time, I didn't draw a line here just because of this empty area. I don't know how secure and comfortable they're going to feel coming out of here. They might just scoot right through here and go that way as well. But that's the kind of line of movement that I'm looking for. Now, as you can see, I'm drawing my access trail here. This is what looked to be a parking lot. I'm not sure what the other access routes are for this piece in specific. I didn't even look at the total size of this just because I didn't really care all that much. I was just trying to paint the picture of this line of movement that I'm trying to show you guys, and this aerial scouting, e-scouting type scenario. But that's my parking lot. This is how I'm getting in here. And this is all relative to the wind direction, right? All of this stuff is going to cater to my prevailing winds that I didn't look at. I didn't look at prevailing winds. I didn't look at wind direction, how that's going to affect here. But basically, I set up a couple stand locations that I thought could be high quality. Now, these are going to be at the top of those fingers, top of those pinch points, like I said. This is basically a travel corridor. This is going to be one of those stand locations that could potentially be really good during the rut as these deer are funneling through here, checking these food sources. They're coming up out of this staging area, and they're transitioning. Maybe they're doing circles through here, trying to find that hot doe, and they're going to be finding these pinch points and those connecting pieces through big block of timber to big block of timber. So as these deer are coming out of maybe this sliver, they're crossing over and staying in cover as much as possible. I really like when a piece of timber and another piece of timber get really close to meeting, because you can almost guarantee that deer are going to prioritize that area because it's the shortest distance that they're exposed. So I really like those areas. This right here could be really good. Like I said, I just dropped a couple stand locations to give you guys an example. This stand down here would be more of a food source, bedding to food source movement. I'm thinking this is going to be like that evening food source movement. These could be more morning as these deer are taking longer to get back to their bedding area. You know, this is going to be your morning setup because you're farther away from that food source. You're giving them time to get back to you and hopefully catch them during daylight. Now, if I were to do this one in the morning, I'd be getting a little bit tight to, say, maybe some doe bedding in here, or those deer coming off that ag field right at daybreak there. As I'm getting to that stand, that could potentially be a cause of, you know, disturbance. So I'm looking at this as more of an evening stand. This could be really good during the rut as those deer are doing circles. Those big bucks are doing circles trying to find that hot doe. But as the top priority here, this is going to be your line of movement here. You know, you find your ag and you find your big food source movement, and then you try to locate bedding and what you think could potentially be doe bedding, which I'm thinking this is going to be a lot of doe bedding in here just because it's mashed between these two food sources. There's not a lot of depth of cover here. This isn't a real wide strip, and those does and fawns are going to take up that space right next to your food sources here. So this could be some potential doe bedding, fawn bedding. This could also be some potential doe bedding and fawn bedding. But I'm looking at this more of a staging area, a little bit of a social hub area where a lot of these deer from the public land are transitioning to. And this looks like a low area to me. This looks like a low area, a little bit of a ditch, kind of a swale that's leading up to this ag field. This looks higher to me. So a lot of your thermal winds and that scent is going to pool down in here, so those deer are going to feel very secure. They're going to set up in there and make sure that everything is safe before they travel out here to the food sources. So we'll let this play out to the end here. I'm not sure what else I did as far as drawing things out, but this is kind of what I'm looking for. You know, I'm looking for that big bedding to food source movement. Like I said, a lot of this could be bedding too as well, probably is. Like I said, this is going to be your line of movement here, and I didn't draw out exactly how long this is or how far this is, but there's a lot of potential here for a good line of movement, very easy to e-scout in a sense because, you know, this is a big area of a lot of cover and not a lot of food value, so these deer are going to be on a line of movement from bedding to food here. And if you can narrow that down, you can find that private food. You can set up and catch these deer coming off your state land before they get to the public. So just kind of running through this once more, thinking this is going to be kind of your evening food source staging area where those bucks are coming out of here. They're coming off that farther bedding from the food sources. Like I said, this is probably going to be more of your doe bedding here as well. A lot of congregation that I see going on right here. I think this is a really good spot to set up because I see these deer coming out of these fingers in this big block of timber and setting up in here, staging right before dark there, and having a really good opportunity to kill a good one on his food source movement right there in the evening. But at the same time, this is a really good rut spot as well. This could be really good. You see this whole big block of timber, and that's coming up to meet another big block of timber up in here. This top of the funnel could be really good as well during the rut. I could see these deer running all the way up through here. I could see them crossing right in here, trying to get to a lot of these different little patches of timber, going crazy during the rut. So this is kind of the whole scenario that I would look for. I'm looking for a bedding area or multiple, potential bedding. I'm looking for food sources that, those are all variables. You don't know what's planted here until you get boots on the ground, and then you adapt from then. You try to figure out and dial in what's high quality right now. Is this cornfield getting hammered? Is this bean field getting hammered? The time of the year is going to dictate a lot of this as well, right? But, a lot of potential here. There's some variables here. You don't know what this looks like in a sense. You don't know, okay, is this CRP or is it mowed real tight? Did they take a flail mower in there to try to control invasives? Is that sprayed? I don't know. I don't know the status of a lot of this stuff. It looks like it has been driven through, like somebody went through there with a big brush cutter or a flail mower or something like that and trimmed that down, trying to control something. I don't know, but that's all stuff that you're going to have to figure out when the time comes. But at the same time, it does look like it's got a road system through here, so your access can change a lot the way it looks. I just drew this out quick. Now, if I've got I don't know what a wind coming out of this direction would be. This is the direction that I would assume a lot of these deer are going to be traveling to these food sources on, especially during daylight. If you got a wind starting up in here, I don't know what direction that would be, like I said. But as far as that goes, my access for maybe something down here might come down here on the back side of this bedding area, stay clear, slip in here, maybe blow out some stuff in here, but you're sitting on all this movement, traveling to this food sources, and cutting this edge. It does have some potential to, even if this is cut real short, it does have some potential to still be viable in a good little inside corner there, just because it's got these fingers coming up. So maybe those deer do feel secluded enough back here because they have that side cover with these fingers coming up, kind of secluding them from this open area back here. Maybe they still will cut this corner. Maybe they're cutting it over here a little bit, but this is kind of how I would set that up. I'm trying to find congregating areas in this staging area, something that looks like it would gather a lot of deer and hold them until just before that evening food source movement, which I think this is. I'm looking for that doe bedding area, that fawn bedding area, which is going to be packed in here right nice and tight to these ag fields, that evening food source movement. As you get farther back, I like this for buck bedding, just because they're trying to create that distance between the does and the fawns. And this sets up really nicely to be a very good rut area as well. Doing a lot of cruising through here, using these fingers and staying in these fingers and trying to stay in cover as long as possible. So that looks really nice to me as well. But yeah, that's kind of the basis of what I would be looking for. Completely brand new e-scouting an area. This is what I came up with. I drew this out in about 12-15 minutes. It doesn't take long if you can trying to kind of train your mind to what you want to look for and draw that out so you have a physical idea of, okay, this is what this looks like. How would a deer travel through this? And now you can go even deeper and figure out your prevailing winds and how that would set up, where a buck might be positioned here according to that prevailing wind, where he's likely to travel according to that prevailing wind, and how you can get at him without blowing him out according to that prevailing wind. So this is kind of how I would approach it. This is how I would attack it. Like I said, middle of Missouri somewhere. I don't want to blow up somebody's hunt if this is an area you're hunting, but I don't even know where this area is, and I'll just leave that under the wraps here for this video. But yeah, this is how I would approach it. I hope this helps you guys out as far as maybe planning some out-of-state hunts in the future. Taking a look at this stuff, using Onyx, using whatever online mapping app that you do. They all work. But yeah, this is how I would set this up. Find your destination food, find your destination bedding, find those travel corridors, those pinch points, those neck downs, the staging areas, and then draw out your line of movement, and then overlap that with your prevailing winds to find out how you can hunt this, how a buck's likely to move, and how you can slip in and get on that movement without blowing them out. So hope this helped you guys. But yeah. This is my e-scouting video for basically figuring out how to hunt an area without having boots on the ground.